Hello, good evening, and thanks again for another edition of Ideas Exchange. Tonight, I want us to focus on two things that we may take for granted. One is already on the discussion table, that is illegal mining. Today, we know the president was in Kumasi. He had a meeting with the National House of Chiefs, and then MMDCs, that's the Metropolitan Municipal and District Directors of Education. Much of what he said, we've heard before. Whether it will be implemented to the letter is another thing. If the president is really committed to sanction state officials and party apparatchiks who are actively involved in illegal mining, will be something many of us would want to closely monitor, because it has gotten to a stage where every Ghanaian thinks we are in a very crisis peak, to the extent that if we don't take care, the food you eat, from tubers to plantain to vegetables, and then of course our major cash crop, cocoa, have all been labeled as things that very soon may come back to slap us in the face because of some of the things we have done by looking on while the devastation goes on. The other is about natural disasters. For now, we are looking at floods. They appear to have overwhelmed the National Disaster Management Organization. Yes, every year, whenever it rains, we hear about floods. We hear rhetorics, we hear promises, we hear assessment tours, assessment visits. And then, of course, we hear the distribution of foodstuffs, staple food, sometimes mattresses, mosquito nets, buckets, and so on. But is this really what will solve our problem? Because we have been hit by what NADMO officials describe as a national disaster here in the heart of the capital. And I'm making reference to Weja. The pictures you see on your screen, and of course later I will walk you through some of these communities, and you would understand that it is just a reflection of neglect, a reflection of failed promises to take bold decisions to clear waterways, a reflection of sleeping state institutions, a reflection of a country that is fast decaying, and I'm using decaying in inverted commas to reflect a country that is failing by the day. Thousands of people have been displaced. And what was the story? Just about 4 or 5 days ago, there was a decision by the Ghana Water Company Limited that to save the water treatment plant, they have to allow excess water to go away. So they opened the sluice gates. They do it every year, but this time it appears there was poor coordination. Officials say because the rains that fell over the last 1 week took them by surprise, and they never anticipated the volume of water that will be coming from the eastern region and parts of the Ashanti region into the Densu River. And so there was little time for NADMO, for assembly officials to go out there to sensitize the people to move from areas that are prone to floods. But later you would understand from the topography of where I visited that when Kwame Nkrumah and those behind the construction of the Weja Dam completed, they left what we call a buffer zone. That buffer zone was not supposed to go fallow. That buffer zone was going to be an irrigated portion of the downstream, which was going to be used for the cultivation of vegetables to feed the city. That zone was supposed to take care of any flood or water during major seasons like we are experiencing now, so that whenever the Weja Dam excess water is released, it will go through the flood plain and then gradually enter the water behind Tetegu. But today, when we went on the ground, and you can see from the aerial photograph of the enclave, these are not ordinary buildings. These are modern buildings that have gradually occupied that space over the last 20 to 25 years. We are told that the flooding in the Weja enclave is about the West since 1991. Today, I visited there. Before I go into the details to find out whether the National Disaster Management Organization is well conditioned and situated to be able to handle some of these, I would also want to find out whether it makes sense to employ people and keep them in offices, give them vehicles to work, yet you fail to give them the necessary tools and the logistics they need to solve problems for the ordinary taxpayer. I'll walk much into those details, but today I went to New Wager. What I wanted to experience was to have a feel of what the people are going through. And so I visited a number of the communities before we chanced on the National NADMO operatives who were also going on the assessment tours, and we joined them. And you find out in the conversation that there's so much neglect and that it's about time the people became angry and fight themselves and also fight authorities. I'll explain this later. But watch the package I've put together, which is a reflection of the experience I had on the ground when I visited New Wager. I went to Tetegu. I went to the Bojo Beach area, and that is what I want to share with you. And have a feel of how the flood has taken the entire community. So they pushed us onto that small boat, and then we went just about 300 meters away from where they stood. And that is where I engaged the deputy Bawe, that is Weja Bawe, NADMO coordinator. Let's hear the conversation. Look at my left-hand side, you realize that this is a newly built residential area, and this is somebody's home, and you can see the level of the water almost close to the level of the window. There you see a vehicle already trapped in the water, and you can imagine the damage caused. This is just a reflection of how bad the situation is. And if you look at the extreme end, we have not gone that far into the flood yet, but the gentleman who facilitated our movement from the main road towards this place was almost standing in the water to the chest level. That tells you the depth of the flood. Understand the extent of damage.
It is very devastating.
Look at the camera.
It is very, very devastating. The extent of damage, we cannot quantify it, because over 1 kilometer of stretch of area has been devastated, and no one is surviving. They are all displaced. As I'm speaking now, we are trying to get somewhere where we can go and put them there to take care of them for some time before the floods come down. This is the second time. The first one happened in 1991. That's 31 years ago. But that time, there was no building around this area, so the impact was not felt. From here, you can see up to the barrier, so the impact was not so great. But this time, because of development, residential development, and all other things that is going on, the impact has been very, very devastating. And this time, the level of the water has gone 49.5. That's unprecedented. And the spillage is going for 4 gates, 72 inches each. And that's also unprecedented, because the highest was 36 inches for all these years. So this year, it has been, the spillage is massive, and it's causing a lot of havoc for us.
Now, I saw the stretch right from Wager Junction towards the main Wager town, and as we moved along, we saw that the left-hand side was where actually the impact of the flood is. Now, the men, the women, the aged, the sick, the school children, where are they?
For now, some of them, we've taken them to a safe haven. Some of them too have gone to their relatives. Some of them too have relocated, because some of them can go somewhere and have their shelter. Friends too and other neighbors are also helping.
Talk to the camera.
Are also helping the people to at least go through this turmoil.
Now, did you anticipate this? Did Ghana Water Company give you advance notice, national security, did they project that this will be the extent of the damage, for which reason NADMO would have prepared adequately to help those who are affected?
Yeah, I think it is a big issue because we came here about a week ago, gave an announcement that the spillage is coming on. Because the water coming far from the Swamp area is very big and it is coming into the dam. So the spillage will be big. So we came to inform them, tell them to relocate to the higher grounds so that at least when the spillage comes, the impact will be minimal. But people thought, as usual, as normal, it will come small, then it will go.
No, but I thought that NADMO over the last few years says you are doing preventive disaster management rather than containing disasters. So if you spoke to the people and you anticipated that the damage would be to this extent, was there any way you could have applied force?
But even we ourselves, we didn't anticipate the impact to be this, because we thought the level was, as at last week, was 47 points. This thing, but within 2 days, it rose to a certain level. The dam integrity was online, so the manager has no option than to open it. So he opened it to the fullest, because it has never happened before. We normally, every year, we come and educate them, they go everywhere to tell them that here, this is what is going to happen. So all of you relocate.
So at this stage, what is NADMO doing? Are you just observing? Do you have the capacity to manage as many poor people who cannot cope because they live by hand to mouth, and so what they do on daily basis is what feeds them? What are you doing to support these people? As
wagered by municipality, the NADMO directorate, as for us, is beyond our limit, because where the thing has reached, it has become a national disaster, and now we send an SOS to our regional bosses and our national bosses, and as I'm speaking to you now, the national director is coming to the ground to also observe, because we've told them that now we cannot.
No, but critics will say day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. If the national NADMO boss is now coming to make an observation before they can even project the volume of support that will be needed, it will suggest that NADMO itself is not prepared.
Not that we are not prepared, but initially it has been happening. It is a serious thing that happens.
So you were taken by surprise.
So we're taken by surprise. That is what has created this whole lot of issues.
What are some of the things in your estimation from the initial assessment are actually damaged beyond the buildings that are submerged? If you look at the buildings here, they are of high value. These are modern buildings.
The spilling is going on, so there's even no way we can even pump out the water.
And so this water level could even go higher.
For now, as at this morning, the director has told us the level as at yesterday, will keep it that way. But the spillage is going on. So the water level, we've opened up the estuary for the river to enter the sea. So we are hoping that it will subside by the close of the day, by tomorrow morning to subside. Then we can start doing what we have to do to restore people back.
So those you have sent to a safe haven, as you spoke about, is NADMO feeding them? Is NADMO clothing them? Is NADMO taking care of those who may be sick among them?
I think we took them there yesterday night. So as at now, we've handed over. It's the municipal assembly who has to. Some of them are at Ketegu, in Guja Junction. So it's the municipal assembly who has to.
I've just been speaking to Ibrahim Yakubu, who is the Deputy NADMO Coordinator for Weja. Have a better scene. So water. So you can see later, I'm sure the cameras will help you to appreciate it. Now, Madam Pacho, Nipana Faha, I saw more rescue or more life, I got through bridge, no more coin.
Nipacho omu coffee. Omu coffee, omu coffee, omu fiese, etisen. Na omu papa ni omu mami mu wo dem. Ya ena yari fo musu wo dem enti omu coffee ho se seno etisen. Na wo kasa na ese wonde no e break I say wo wura ho na enoma no etisen e wa ha ma
enkwala nipa omani free omo he omo how ne say
omo kedem mi tunu mi ntini papa omo akedem omo ntumi mpue wa wo hwa nso we omo hu omo hu ade no omo be de na omo be twa nso no omo ntumi ntwa enti omo wadem e na nso no ko we enti na school from so omo nko school we nso ye hu bida yes 91 e na we happy na we nso echen 91 no
na modidi na moye den na mudware say o pese o gya wo nan a o be kon hemfa
ye njare ye huhuru ye nan ya twa nso ni sa adisa ne ya kwa akoda sa ene mi kura mi nda mi wada ma kaka na mapue be hwe se nso nu aba na masa akọ na masa sori sa asa na adichi ye ti se 4 o'clock na ye da ha na ye hwe nso ni se nso nu
enti won kola no wen
omu ho ene enti obi ankwa bebia obi ankwa school ye dan nu ba ku ne nso afa nu e na nyama nu nso afa ni na e na ye kwamu nu nso nu da ye ha ye ntumi fa kakra bi na ye fa ye e na ye ye we na ye kwa ha
enti mo ye dan num nsuo eduano no munya no wahe na mudi na se we etoaso for another 3 4 5 days a ebe ye mo sen
e na ye bewu
mpacho me hairdresser na me betena be 5 months ni na o ma bie nso se me dan de nsuo na fa dan ne kura te se mi hu mi kita small girl bi kura se mba na ko ma obi wo danso man na mi mu ma ba be hwe se na ebe ya amene ma ne se na esifa akọ
na eman yiwa no minim se mo doso wo krom ha na mo ye dan na mo hwe me ho sesi a mo bibia ahre enti mo ye dan na mo didi se o pese o siesie wo ho a mo ye ne san
oh wọ́n sẹ́ mi bag yẹ sẹ́ mi kọ́ hu ase ẹni na mbi bia wọ́n mi ti sẹ́ mi nyansuo na mi de ọhụrụ mi na hu ase wọ́n ni tua na ẹja yẹ na mu saa eti sẹ́ wẹ́dẹ sẹ́ mo amoa yẹ na sẹ́ nsuo no anya bibi ama yẹ de a mi ni mu ni ebe to yẹ wɔ ha no mi sẹ́ mi nkwalaa no so kora ɔmo brɛ wa no ɔmo bɛ kɔ suo me bibi ɔmo nyina ɔmo gu fie ana sẹ́ yɛn so yɛ de ama yɛ yɛ ne afi kakra yi nso no enti ɛno a yɛ nyina yɛ de de obi container mu ha no mi sɛ sister bi kora na agye mi sister bi nneɛma mpo na ɛwɔ hɔ na de yɛ mi mɔbɔ kɛse paa sɛ yɛ kyerɛ papa bi yale kula wotin suo mu kula ese no muntimi ko yi papa na kula waka nsuo no mu eno kula na ye ma re ho kula kese se ye ja obese ye ho odin de yetimi atwa aba na omo yale ne nso e
very pathetic. And I've spoken to a number of them and I get the impression that they are desperate because they have almost concluded that if they want to rely on NADMO or the assembly or the regional administration or perhaps government at large, they'll be waiting in vain, because this is not the first time they've gone through this experience. And it's just unfortunate that this is happening. And there are many people asking questions. At the time the Ghana Water Company Limited was going to open its sluice gates, was national security aware? If it was aware, what preemptive measures did they take? There's another buggering question, which is about whether the assemblies were adequately equipped and prepared, knowing very well that just a few days before the GWCL opened its spill gates, there had been series of rainfall within the Accra metropolis, and several communities already experienced floods, and therefore opening the spill gates would have meant that it was going to be easy for as many communities downstream to become flooded.
2 weeks time nkwala na ekwa akwotro exams ebe din sa akwala na obetimi afiri nsuo mpanifo mpontimi ma na akwala akwotro bi sese na afo osunya de from year bi nsuo omo wo akira ha de obi anu ha obetimi abesunya de se oba abesunya de ebeduru exams sese akwala na nsunya de nso na adisunya no kakra ye mele kakra we na obetimi de abesen akwotro akosunya de na 2 weeks time watimi de akonanim no ena ese nsuo amankofo aka akire enti esla ban ombaya ye moa e wo saa nkwala ne awofo na aka akire no na ese ye gina ha no ye yam hyehye yansi ye obi awuda dem so obi ai de se boys ne ya na omo ekọ na omo di nsuo ne blodokọ enti esla ban se de wo hu no na ni so ade akura wo hu no wo hwe no TV so on me ho no man onya ayam hye said onya man nkofo da bia no no omeye ekire hofo moa.
So it appears as if where I have tried to locate myself, I have a lot of women around, and somebody is almost being carried away by the water, and that's why you heard some noise at the background. But madam, me who say ubuefu papa, I didn't know ubuefu.
Me pacho wo, na me buefu ni say, me ba waja 17 years in but me who we be da. Fine, oya one atesi bi na nipa na mu. Fi say ade no nso na mu bia, o mu baby no man ka be bia nkyerɛ obia. Me ne ma nyina wo me de mentade me ne ma fa pin. Na mom na sama anopa ye kwada asoro henti ya ba ne atene say akronfo so ne namu ewie ankrofo ne ma en se se aso ye di MP bia ma ha se de na ye yo se de na ye yo MP bia nsi ya henti ya sra ban se sanka be ya nkom lock gate no ama obi anko yi ne ma fa pa ba bi hu en so be san bia no mpacho no ma san den ebie me pacho mi kwadanfo bi yele wo top wo enti ya wana ja wonu aduane na wa fle yen na ya kodi bi enti ade asa na ya san ko top
Eya o
eya me no kwasa eya papa me na manyina wo me dem e na akranfo do mo ho agim akranfo mo do mo ho agim ento mo nyai akranfo do mo ho agim mun kan kire wo mo radio so yeso mo nya na mo ye no na me kom fie wo no bi afa me ade ya me mfa nche ene dem aka me pacho manuasi
pacho yo me dase bebre. And so that's the picture, and I'm almost breaking down, but the fact is it's just unfortunate that you live in a country and it appears as if your fate is between you and your maker, because society doesn't appear to have proper, well-organized structures that deal with such disasters. And year on, what we know is people are left to their fate, the chapter folds up, we forget about it, and then come back again and talk about the same issues. And so that's one part of the visit, and in the next part you will see me following the NADMO officials to the Weja dam site, where we actually made an observation of how water is gushing out from the sluice gates. So I asked them to pause here and come to me in the studio so that I walk you through what I saw, and you would sit in your rooms and appreciate the pain as we speak. I can tell you on authority that more than 1,000 people are either sleeping before containers or shops, they are sleeping under trees, or they are perching wherever they can have a roof over their heads. They are sleeping under the mercy of the weather, mercy of mosquitoes, because obviously that's a flood-prone area which is good for mosquitoes to breed. Now just sit down and reflect on this. Look around your house. Your things may not be as expensive as mine. Your small portmanteau or your small TV set, it could be your kitchen gadgets, and then you wake up one day less than 24 hours because one state institution, Ghana Water Company, has to save a whole treatment plant. Other state agencies are not able to enforce the laws by moving the people by force and ensuring that they deploy national security, military, police, all the forces they can marshal, and make sure people go to safe grounds. And the excuse is that they have built along waterways. Who gave them the permit? Who sold the land? When the land was sold, was the District Assembly aware? The District Assembly, do they have laws that are against the construction of buildings on waterways? Are they mandated to pull them down? Those who sold land to the people who have put up those facilities, have they done something illegal? Could the law have dealt with them? Why were we sleeping? Why are we crying now? Will we cry tomorrow? That is one picture. But the areas affected are Tetegu, almost the entire community, New Weja, SCC, Tatop, Ashalaja, Sampa Valley, parts of Top Town and American Farm at English Amanfrom. Now, for those of you who may not know Accra very well, if you live in Takrady or you live in the Western region and you have ever been to Takrady, it is almost like the entire space from Sekondi, right from the fishing harbor to the Takrady port, and then all the way to Kwesimintim and towards Efie, Nkwanta, towards, how do you call it, the Fijai areas. If one of the enclaves, if you take Weja or Tetegu, that is how big it is. If you live in Tamale, it is almost like the entire Tamale metropolis. I am not going beyond the outskirts. I'm just looking at the enclave that anybody will call Tamale metropolis, Tamale township. That's almost every part of it submerged by floods. If you live in Accra and you don't know those areas very well, it is almost like moving all the way from Teshi to Nungwa to Osu through Labadi, and then maybe you go towards Jowulu. That is the land space that has been swallowed by water. And so that should give you a picture about the extent of the devastation. If you live in Suyanyi, it is almost like the entire Suyanyi township that has been swallowed by water. Now, while we were going around, and you see from the video I'll be showing as I continue the conversation, that NADMO officials came and they moved to the Weja plant site. And when we got there, we observed things from that height, and you could see the land below and the speed with which water was gushing out from the sluice gate should give you a better picture. And from there, we continue to Bojo Beach. That is the enclave behind Tetegu. That is where the water meets the sea, the estuary. And then we could see that water was gradually leaving the flooded communities. And at the time we were moving out of that space, we understood that the water levels have begun dropping. Let's watch the other part of the conversation I put together. Managing to save a few of the belongings which are still trapped in the houses that have been submerged. And the indication we have is that there's no proof that the water levels will drop. And so many of them are trying to evacuate as much as they can. And very few minutes ago, the NADMO National Coordinator, his deputy, and other officials of the Assembly were here trying to assess the situation. So we are moving to the next location. We've been to a number of places, and wherever we've been to, the situation is that bad.
Ye hwe kwan e befa so a ye benya bibi kakra de abrem na motimi adidi na monya baby motimi akoda baby kama na de e wo se kama muhu se entimi mmase da bia ensuo to a na ensuo ayiri abaha na ya brewo aduane na ya brewo mattress na ya brewo mosquito coil aban betimi aye sa de aboa wo da bia ba ye ntimi ntena ho ma ne mma da bia sa ne sedako asem se esi na ensuo ne de ukona wu a sa aban ye ntimi mfa ansa ma o nti e besere mu se aha sei enye ba bia esese ni patra aha nye ba bia wo se ni patra ba bia ensuo da bia ye wo ensuo na chi a ye frɛ no obroni si bafa a se ensuo ne bro so ho na wo se ensuo ne fa sa baby no na mo betena nti baby obi ate bia emra makwan se wo se wotena ha ahokyere ani bibi nti na abasa nti ese ye besere mo se animu obi ampe baby nye dai enko bisesese de asi sensuo no tia e wo sa assembly no ba na ha ye bebubu ha nyina ne yetimi ti nsuo dim.
Yes, and so we moved from that area, and very shortly we'll be going to the Weja water treatment plant site where the sluice gates were opened. But while we were moving, we deliberately took this video in a moving vehicle for you to see the stretch of land and the quality or the value you can put on the buildings on the side where the flooding has taken place. You notice from the extreme end that there's a hilly area, and that is where it happened. I will have a brief explanation along this stretch, which is part of the Cape Coast Takoradi Highway. As the cameras will show you, settlements were not supposed to be here, but if you look at the value of the buildings here as you move or follow the camera and the lenses towards the main road, you will understand that the situation is very, very disturbing, and for that reason, government has a bigger picture to contain. Charlie. These people, we went to many communities this afternoon, and you can see the stretch. This is a major street, tarred road. So if it is a flood-prone area, why will government spend money to tar the road and then allow people to put all those, that's almost about a 5-story building. And many people were going in and out and virtually moving out the things they had. This is Bojo Beach, where we ended up. And of course, you would notice from this place that we went to the other end of the disaster zone to see how the water was being managed in terms of the speed with which it was entering the water. And there I was on a boat as we moved to the estuary. Beach. We are actually within their facility, which is just managing the enclave between the sea and the lagoon. And so where we are now, we are moving towards the estuary to observe the speed and how the situation in the area is. On this boat, we have the National NADMO coordinator, his deputy, the Wejagbawe district NADMO officials. We have the police and other national security operatives here, all part of the monitoring team going around to assess the impact of the disaster. We've been to a number of areas already. We've been to Weja, we've been to Bawe, we've been to some of the communities along the stretch towards where we branched off to Aplako and Botiano. And so on this boat, we are moving straight to where the estuary is. It's part of the fact-finding mission to assess the impact. When we came to Bojo Beach today, we are told that the entire compound, which is actually grassed, where people used to sit or revelers sit and relax or have fun, was very much occupied with water. But today when we came, the water has receded, which is giving an indication that much of the water has now entered the sea, and hopefully if the levels at upstream go down, then the situation may not be as worse as we have seen for now. And so I had a conversation with the deputy national director of the National Disaster Management Organization. I was telling you we went to Weja. I don't know if that's been part of what we have. If it is there, can you please share with us so that people will have a feel of how bad it's been? So you see NADMO officials and the vehicles. We chanced on them during our visit to the flood-prone area. So you see Abu Ramadan there, the Eric Ajuman Prempe is also among those who are moving away from where I stood with my cameraman. And let's see. Yeah. So this is one of the sluice gates. And you can see the speed at which the water is gushing out downstream. And this gives you a better picture about how fast the water is taking over the low-lying areas. And at this moment, we have officials from NADMO and other related agencies who are here to assess the situation. And so this is actually the facility at the Weja treatment plant, where whenever water levels go high, they are compelled to open the sluice gates. And so if you look at the extreme end, can you pan towards the other side? A lot of people will appreciate the volume of water sitting out there. So that's actually the Weja Dam, and it goes as far as your eyes can see. So water that has risen beyond its normal level are actually contained here and gradually used to produce the water that we have in our various homes within some parts of the Accra metropolis. But now the authorities are compelled to allow some of the water to go out to save the facility, and that is what actually has resulted in the crisis that government will be managing over the next few days. So that's one part. I'll be sharing with you what the National Disaster Management Organization is saying. Rekajman Prempe was there, but while we were walking towards the estuary, I had a conversation with his deputy director. I'll share these numbers with you: 020-4155-888, 020-4155-888, 020-4155-944. 020-4155-888, 020-4155-944. You'll be calling me after the conversation with Abu Ramadan to share your views. Who should we blame for all this? The developer, the assembly, NADMO? Should NADMO exist? Because some are saying it's a drain on national resources. If they cannot do anything, then all of them should go home. But why would you blame NADMO if government allocates monies to NADMO but fails to give them those resources? But because many of them are party functionaries, they cannot expose government. And that's where we are. Let's hear Abu Ramadan. We are at Bojo Beach at the moment, and we are moving towards the estuary, where much of the water flooding many communities within the Weja Bawe and other communities are entering the sea. I am taking a stroll with the Deputy National NADMO Coordinator, who will give us a better picture about the assessment so far. How has it been?
So far, so terrible, I'll call it. The situation is not one that we're hoping to affect the people of this country, but unfortunately we are hit by it. So we are putting in all the measures we can possibly to make sure that we reduce the impact of the flooding in the lives of the people.
Now, so far, which of the communities are most hit hard?
As you went around, you saw from the spill gates of the Weja Dam all the way down to the estuary. The entire place is flooded. The entire communities, all communities along the water line are all flooded.
Now, personally, I counted more than 1,000 well-built homes and other makeshift structures, which gives an indication about the number of people affected. Where are they?
You see, this is Accra. This is urban Accra. So most people who live in Weja or who are affected currently have moved into family homes. We've gone into to be with friends. It's not like the rural setting where it's very difficult to get family close by. But so most of the people who were rescued have all moved into their various family friends. They moved in with family and friends. So that's why you are not seeing them clustered at one place the way you see in the rural setting properly.
Now, did NADMO see this coming? Because when we went on the ground, we got the picture that the notice was short, they were overwhelmed. The last time they experienced such a disaster was 1991. Did you anticipate this in view of the rains that were coming in?
Not at all, because from the onset, the Weja Dam, they started spilling last week Monday. So we started our community engagements, our community sensitization drive. So we're sensitizing the people. But the 3-day rain that came, which was unexpected, it wasn't forecasted at all. The heavy rains in the eastern region really caught us unaware. And that is why we are facing this problem. If not, we wouldn't have had this magnitude of.
Are you adequately resourced? Because ideally, NADMO should have, somebody would say, a bank where in case of any unforeseen circumstances, you just go there, take what you need, and support the people. That appears missing on the ground.
It's not. You see, when incidents of this nature happen, there are 3 phases of action you must take. First and foremost is rescue, to make sure that you secure the lives of people. Then secondly, you do your assessment. And the assessment, within it, you do the needs assessment to find out what are the needs of the people. There are some places where we give them both buckets and stuff, they don't need it. They need food.
There are some places where you go and give them rice, they don't need it. Probably they need what's it called, cooked food already, prepared food already. So we are undertaking that process. When we are done, we'll now know what to give the people.
So what would you recommend to the local assembly or perhaps government as a whole? Because we know many school children are not in school because some of their school facilities are being used as temporary structures for those who have been displaced. A lot of them are even going to write their exams in 2 weeks, we are told. And so what is the strategy you are adopting, capturing that under NADMO operations?
So when we are done with this assessment, we'll sit down with the assembly, the chief executive, and look at how best we can come in quickly to support them, to help the people. So I want us to finish and have a brief with the chief executive before we can decide on what to do.
Okay, so Ramadan has just given us an idea about the ongoing assessment. As you can see from the stretch, many of the officials are ahead of us. We were taking a stroll to have a conversation with him. The National NADMO coordinator himself, Ajiman Prepe, is here. And so if you look on my left side, in fact, when we're driving from the main road from Kasua towards Cape Coast or Winneba, we branched off towards left where we are now. I can tell you on authority that all buildings within the stretch you see as the lens captures them are submerged, from 5-story buildings to ordinary makeshift structures. Hundreds of people are devastated because properties are lost. But we'll take you to the estuary, and then you have another interesting picture of this national disaster. And so that was Abu Ramadan. Abu Ramadan is the deputy national, that's the deputy director of the National Disaster Management Organization. What is your own take on the responses that he gave? Just recently in America, there was a disaster. There was a notice that people should evacuate to higher land. Within hours, almost over 2 million people were able to relocate. In our part of the world, when they tell us to relocate, we'd rather stay where we want to live the more, and we don't care. Again, when the people are leaving, there are guarantees that even if their homes are damaged, within the shortest possible time, the government will make sure they put the place back to how it was and perhaps improved. I was monitoring conversation, and somebody was saying, should even the US, for example, which is for the purpose of this conversation, be thinking of rebuilding in disaster-prone areas? In our part of the world, we are rather sleeping and people are building in disaster-prone areas, and what we do is to lament. I'll be speaking to Michael Pepra, who is the president of the Small Scale Miners Association, briefly, just 5-10 minutes quick interview, because I have another date with him on a later date. Then I can pick your calls. Don't forget the numbers that you have to call will be shared on the screen: 020-4155-888, 020-4155-944. Michael, you monitored the president today. Obviously, you are interested. What is your take on the new promises he made today before the National House of Chiefs and the MMDCs?
Well, first of all, let me extend my greetings to your viewers. As a matter of fact, we will not say the president is trying to be dishonest. What we can say is the same thing that we try to do every day, but not yield the needed results we are all expecting. As a matter of fact, if you can remember, when the fight against illegal mining was inaugurated, that is when the president brought about the Ministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. That was to augment the enforcement agencies in order to fight this canker we are all being faced with. It failed woefully. If you can remember, when Charles Bishop name was mentioned that he had received an alleged bribe, we didn't hear anything from the president. Secondly, when those excavated government We were expecting our president to show enough goodwill in trying to find the perpetrators who had taken those excavators from preservation. Our president never stated anything or said anything to that effect. So for him to go to the House of Chiefs in order to solicit their support in the fight against Galamsey, we are only going to say that our president is not being dishonest, but in a way, he is trying to be cunning in the fight against Galamsey. Okay, so next question, briefly, because I'll find time to invite you in our studio and we speak to several issues. Occupy Ghana wants small-scale mining, artisanal mining, banned again, and they want Parliament to look at the best approach. You've gone through this for 2 years. The losses you incurred, there's been no compensation. Again, we are back to where we are. Your response to Occupy Ghana's request? I think I would only entreat them to acquire or occupy enough knowledge in this fight against Galamsey, because it seems they don't understand the reality on the ground. As a matter of fact, it came to the public notice that there were some military in Apipaman Forest Reserves who were shielding or protecting Chinese migrants who were mining with impunity in our forest reserves. As a matter of fact, that case was never investigated. We never heard anything from them. When the excavator got missing, we never heard anything from them. The ban against, or the ban that was placed on small-scale mining and any forms of mining in this country lasted for 2 years. And it never yielded any result. So why do we do the same thing and expect different results? So I am thinking that we should find a way to solve this problem than to, call for a total ban on small-scale mining. Because if you could remember, when the ban was in place, that was the time Ghana became the leading producer of gold in this country. When the ban was in place, the river bodies never healed. Now it is getting worse. So, as a matter of fact, when the military, that is the Vanguard, was inaugurated, it came out that some military personnel were taking bribes for illegal mining. So if we should place a ban on any forms of small-scale mining, it will not go anywhere. So laws in the country. Michael, I know you are coming to Accra in one of these days, and you'll be my guest in the studio to speak truth to power and unravel all the negative things we are covering up as far as illegal mining is concerned. Thanks for tonight. Thanks for having me. Right. So I told you I will leave some space for you to share your opinion. Our focus is on National Disaster Management Organization. 0204-155-888, 0204-155-944. And so the first few calls that I will pick, I will share with you. Now, I want to help you to understand as far back as 1991, when NADMO was 1996, when NADMO was being formed, this was the mandate, that the mandate of the National Disaster Management Organization includes all activities from preparedness to response and recovery, prevent disasters, create awareness in prone communities and institutions on all hazard/disaster types, train and motivate the communities, especially volunteers, to initiate actions to prevent disasters. In your community, is this happening? While we wait for the calls, I want us to wrap up with the National Director. I'm told somebody is on the line. Good evening. Tell us where you are calling from and make it brief.
Hello. I want us to... Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Go ahead, sir.
When it goes to Dansoman, the flood now about Dansuman to see Ano. So called Dansuman, city Dansuman market no, to Dansuman market no. Called down while could see Pambros, Honomono. Oma to assassin now no feeling. What is the mechanism?
Yeah, me tell you Okano.
Oma to assassin now no feeling. It's almost failure could see. What do you call Pambros Honomo? It is insurance bar. And Cassel can soon be about the tower not done in train. The same
Insuna sign a cheap because me cement factory be so quite so.
Lord call me, Lord call me, no
okay. Me just say a Jumadia yedi wa hano say bibi wa hone ni somebody will say if we don't have evidence we want to be a bit hesitant, but we will follow up to find out if indeed Lord Kobe is interested in some of those lands. Next person on the line. Good evening. Where did you call from, sir?
Good evening. I'm calling from
Good. Right. Aflao would mean that just recently we knew what happened within the Keta, Georgia enclave.
Exactly.
You think NADMO is ready, or you think government should think of something else?
Yeah, the government should do something about all these things happening.
So I can understand why you are a bit on and off, because you are listening to yourself on your television set. And I would also advise that anybody who calls after him, reduce the volume so that you can have some free mind to speak out. Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening. Pacho Yanititi Awawai. Good, I'm listening.
I want to speak to Mr. Ahianyo.
Yes, you can go ahead, sir.
What I have to contribute to this issue is that our president thought we, the Ghanaians, doesn't know what is going on. I think whatever they do, we have advised ourselves already. Every Ghanaian has advised him or herself already. So they should stop deceiving us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me pick one more call and then I'll listen briefly to Eric Ajuman Prempe. Now, good evening. Where did you call us from, sir? Or madam?
Good evening. My girlfriend calling from Kuku.
Kuku, right. Go ahead.
Yes. Please, I want to ask, before Kwame Nkrumah did that dam for Ghanaians, was there any occupant at the place that the flood has taken place?
In fact, I was educated by the people living in the community that nobody was there. There was a buffer zone after the Weja Dam, which was large enough to contain water. It was supposed to be irrigated. It was irrigated and it was turned into state farms, part of which extended to the Tetegu area. But instead of the vision that Kwame Nkrumah had, we decided to fill that space with land. We are wrapping up. I'll play briefly what Mr. Ajuman Prempe said. He gave a summary of the various disasters in other parts of the country. Just 2 minutes of that, and I'll wrap up with you.
For the past days, we've all heard what is going on all over the country. Most part of the country has experienced flooding. It started from the northern part of the country, and it's ongoing, even though it is better. The northern part of the country is as a result of the Bagre Dam spillage and then rainfall, the torrential rainfall in Burkina Faso and the northern part of the country. Coming to the middle belt of the country, like the Monson Kwanta area, Chebi, Sawom and other places, there's flooding there, say the rainfall and Galamsey activities, because people are doing Galamsey at the buffers of all the major rivers in those areas. Down south here at the coast, especially Greater Accra, the Gan South and the Wijagba Way, is more or less a natural disaster in the sense that the Weja Dam was full, and you know we need to spill the water so that we don't spoil the work they are doing there, where they have to spill it so that it comes down to 47. So it was at a high speed, the level was very high. And looking at the course of where the water will pass through, the buffers has been encroached by unauthorized structures. I think you all saw people crying that their homes has been affected by the floods and whatever. But one question you ask, where are they living? Most of them are living at the buffers of the river, the course of the spillage. They are also unauthorized because these places are places earmarked originally for irrigation purpose, the buffers of the river. So people are not supposed to build there. So people have built there, put up their unauthorized structures illegally.
Illegally, last word. But there is another thing I will also call unacceptable for state institutions to fail to walk the talk. I don't know what is going through your mind, but I can tell you in confidence that what I saw today made me fear that if tomorrow there is a major disaster in Accra, if you are not well endowed, if you don't have money, if you don't have savings, if you don't have your own escape route, then prepare to suffer or prepare to die. That is what we have as a country. It's about time all of us put our heads together to see how we can review the mandate of the National Disaster Management Organization and ensure that there's going to be a binding policy that will ensure they are always prepared for disasters and can fight on behalf of the average taxpayer. It is you and I, the poor, who suffer most when institutions are not given the free space to operate. While I walk away, I also give you some seeming good news that tonight, NADMO says they are bringing enough food and other logistics, and by tomorrow morning, they will begin distribution to all the affected areas. And again, they are saying that if you live in any of the areas affected, once it is along the waterway, as soon as the water dries up, they will pull it down. My name is Ahianyo. Thanks to my producers, and I believe that next week when we meet, there will be another interesting but worrying issue that all of us have to put our thoughts together. Good night.